Imagine a country where the fish served to you at noon was still swimming in the Adriatic 2 hours earlier. A country that joined the European Union, adopted the euro, entered the Schengen area, and yet, where life still revolves around the morning market and a coffee that lasts an hour. That country is Croatia, and truth be told, it gets talked about much less than it deserves. When we think about quality of life in Europe, we rarely think of the Balkans. And yet, Croatia is now one of the most pleasant countries to live in across the former Yugoslavia, and even Europe as a whole. It's no coincidence. The cost of living remains reasonable. The tax burden isn't suffocating. Summer stretches for several months thanks to the Mediterranean climate, and the country's geographical location allows you to reach Italy, Austria, or Hungary in just a few hours by road. It's exactly this mix that makes Croatia so interesting. We often get the feeling that to live well in Europe, you have to choose between a pleasant but incredibly expensive climate, or a low cost of living with an endless winter. Croatia breaks that logic. The country also maintains very close cultural and linguistic ties with neighboring Bosnia and Herzegovina, a direct legacy of the region's shared history. Today, Croatia's population is estimated at just over 3,800,000, and the overwhelming majority, around 78%, is Catholic, with Orthodox and Muslim minorities completing this religious mosaic. This history wasn't always peaceful. We must remember that in the 1990s, the entire region went through the wars that followed the dissolution of Yugoslavia. Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, especially in the border areas, experienced extremely violent ethnic tensions. 3 decades later, Croatia took a radically different path, joining the European Union in 2013, followed by adopting the euro and entering the Schengen area in January 2023. In less than a generation, the country went from being a war zone to a full member of the European Economic Core. To understand what daily life is like in Croatia, there is no better example than Zadar. Its markets aren't set up as a show for tourists. They have simply been part of the city's rhythm for generations. The fish market, right next to the historic center, is probably the most honest place to feel the local pulse. Octopus, mussels, shrimp, and a dozen varieties of freshly caught fish, sold directly by the fishermen. This is exactly the kind of place I recommend to anyone who truly wants to feel a city, much more than a museum or a monument. There you chat with the fishermen, haggle a little, and leave with a better sense of the city than you would after an hour-long guided tour. Right next to it, the fruit and vegetable market completes the picture. Sun-ripened tomatoes, peppers, local olives, aromatic herbs, and fruits that change with the season. For anyone wanting to cook Croatian food at home, this is the place to come, not the supermarket around the corner. If you're already liking this vibe, take 2 seconds to hit the like button on this video. That really helps the channel so more people can discover these kinds of destinations. And subscribe if you want us to keep exploring countries together that rarely get shown. In Zadar, everything starts early. Locals do their shopping at the market in the early hours, often before heading to work. Local bakeries serve almost a social purpose. Fresh bread and traditional pastries draw as many people as any trendy cafe elsewhere in Europe. And speaking of coffee, here it's not a drink you gulp down in 10 minutes between 2 meetings. It's an almost always shared ritual that can easily stretch for an hour, sometimes longer. The afternoon changes pace completely. The waterfront fills up with people strolling, the beaches welcome locals and visitors alike, and water sports become a daily routine as soon as the warm season hits. The University of Zadar brings an extra energy to the city. Students liven up the cafes and public squares, actively participating in a rich cultural life filled with concerts, exhibitions, and food festivals. Family remains a central pillar of this society. Generous, long family meals bring together fresh fish, meat, pasta, and traditional desserts around the table. These aren't just meals. They are true moments of social cohesion, almost an invisible cement that still holds the community together. This is probably one of the things that impacts Western visitors the most, accustomed as they are to meals wrapped up in 20 minutes. The people of Zadar love sharing their culture with visitors. But they also firmly hold on to preserving the authenticity of their way of life. In the surrounding rural areas, this attachment to tradition is even more pronounced, while cities like Zagreb or Split show a more cosmopolitan face, with much more international architecture, gastronomy, and lifestyles. Since the country's independence in 1991, building a national identity remains an underlying theme in Croatia. Debates about history, culture, and the country's place in Europe are constant. An important economic challenge also weighs on the country's future: the brain drain. Every year, thousands of young, educated Croatians move to other EU countries, especially Germany and Ireland, looking for better salaries and career prospects. This fuels a national debate on what incentives should be created to retain local talent. The issue of minorities also remains relevant. Although the Croatian population is generally quite homogeneous, the Serb, Hungarian, and Italian communities are still part of the public debate regarding cultural and linguistic rights. In parallel, environmental protection is gaining more and more ground, particularly around sustainable tourism and preserving the Adriatic coastline, which faces growing tourist pressure every summer. Tourism is precisely the country's main economic driver. It represents a significant portion of Croatia's GDP, sustained by millions of visitors each year, drawn to the Dalmatian coast, the islands, and cities like Dubrovnik or Split. This is both a blessing and a trap. A blessing because it generates jobs and international visibility. A trap because an economy too dependent on a single sector becomes fragile the moment a global crisis hits travel, as we saw during the pandemic. Diversifying into industry, technology, or agriculture seems to be a key focus for the next 10 years. Zadar sums up what makes Croatia so unique quite well: a daily life where modernity and education coexist with deeply rooted traditions, where markets and cafes remain genuine meeting points, and where family and food stay at the center of it all, with still reasonable prices, a generous Mediterranean climate, and a strategic position in the heart of Europe. This country clearly has what it takes to charm you far beyond its 3-week peak summer season. If you like this kind of lesser-known destination, check out my playlist dedicated to countries that are barely shown in Europe. You'll find places just as surprising as this one, far off the beaten path. Thanks for watching the video, and see you very soon on our next journey.